What's up, y'all? It's your boy Gippetto here back in the building. I wanted to make a video about the singer-songwriter Tiffany Red, who recently um, released a video calling out a lot of the artists in the industry. She mainly talked about Beyonce, Zendaya, Seven Streeter, Tamar, and so forth. And she called them out about bigger artists pretty much swooping in and getting publishing on songs that they didn't write. So this is a very common practice in the music industry. The reason why I know this is because I used to actually be in the music industry. And I'm going to talk a little bit about her gripes in parts where I really agree with her and then parts where I disagree. And I will say this. I've known of who Tiffany Red is for a minute. Let me just back up and let me give you all the background on me. So I initially started pursuing a musical career, right? My dream was to be in an R&B group. I would have loved to be in an R&B group. So when I first moved to Atlanta, that was my goal. I was like networking with trying to get people to get in the studio because I really wanted to be a musical artist. After a lot of networking and stuff like that, I finally started working with this one producer. I was like 18 or 19 at the time. He was in his mid 30s and he was a talented brother, but he had just never gotten his big break. So prior to that, I had met another producer who he was like a so-so producer. He had beats and he had just gave me some beats on the CD and I had wrote to all the beats on the CD. And I was looking to record them. So the other producer I met was going to record me. So then he was kind of like, hey, he was like, yo, who wrote your songs? So I was like, oh, I wrote them. And he was like, you're like a really dope songwriter. So I was like, oh, word? He like, yeah. He's like, yo, you probably could write for other artists too. And then at that time, this is like when Neo and The Dream and Carrie Hilson, like their whole stories of them being songwriters and artists was really a thing. You know what I mean? So he had kind of said like, yo, this is how we should do. We should get on being songwriters. Look at Neo, look at Dream, look at Carrie Hilson. So I said, okay, cool. Long story short, that particular producer, he really taught me the music game. Like I was a walking duck. I didn't know anything about the music industry. He really sat down and taught me the game, right? Front to back, back to front. The only problem is he taught me so much of the game that when he tried to pull some fuck shit on me, I was able to block it, and that's why we fell out. So pretty much, he had got a bigger producer. This producer had worked with like TLC, Usher, and some other people. A big producer in Atlanta who wanted to hear some records. So the producer I was working with, he came to me and he was like, "Man, I think I got our big break." He was like, "We need to, we gotta, I got us a meeting with this producer." And he told me the producer's name. I was familiar with the producer, so I was like, man, lit, ready. He like, look, so we gonna present some records. I had songs, he had songs, we had a few songs we had written together, but he said, well, before we go to this producer, I want us to sign a contract between the two of us. He like, let's sign a 10-year contract that any song that you write, meaning me, I get 50% and then vice versa. So at first I was like, I had heard about songwriting teams and all that stuff, and I said, okay, cool. So I was like, so what songs, because mind you, some of the songs that I had written on my demo, I wanted to keep for my own album. So then I was like, well, what songs are we going to play for the producer? He then suggested that I offer up all my songs to the producer to give it to other artists. So then I was kind of like, but wait, how you want me to what songs of yours are you gonna present to him? And he's like, nah, I mean your records are like fresher, they're newer, you know, you have a really good ear for writing hooks and stuff like that. So I didn't feel comfortable signing a 10-year contract with this dude, and then if me and him fall out in a year, I'm obligated to give him 50% of my songwriting earnings because we signed this contract. So I told him, like, yeah, I don't really feel comfortable signing this 10-year contract. Plus, I feel a type of way that you want only the songs that we present to him to be my songs. And even though I will say I had better records than his, I just felt away. And mind you, remember, I'm like 19. This cat is like 35. So I feel like, and he was kind of spinning it to me like, man, you young, you got time to make it in the industry. You know, I'm in my mid 30s. Like, look, bro, like, man, we got to get on. And I didn't like that. So that's like the fallout with that first producer I worked with made me really start taking the industry serious and doing my research and learning about the industry. So then I started working with another producer, and he was a homeboy. And then I said, like, look, let's pursue, like, let's be Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis. Let's be like, you know, Tricky and The Dream. Let's be like Neo and Stargate. Like, let's really create, like, I'll be the writer, you'll be the producer. So him and I was working on a lot of different songs. Like, man, I had went through my email one day. This is like over 10 years ago. I have so many demos I recorded, like good R&B demos. Now, I started to learn about how crazy the music, like I could make a separate video of just all the crazy shit I've been through in the music industry, but related to Tiffany Red, we actually had a pretty big artist. It's a female R&B singer. I'm not gonna say who it is, but it wasn't a female artist. It was her team. We had a song that we thought would be perfect for her, and what happened was a big industry person had told me, like, when you're writing for a particular artist, you pretty much have to record a demo. You write the song, and then you have somebody go in the studio and they sing the demo. And then what somebody had told me was, if you're writing a song for Rihanna, you go and you find a girl who sounds like Rihanna to record the demo. If you're writing a song for Chris Brown, you try to find a guy who sounds like Chris Brown to sing the song. So we were doing that. Like, so we were just like, you know, recording, and I was writing demos and stuff like that. So this one particular artist, she was pretty, a R&B chick. She was pretty big in the 2000s. She had some classic songs. She's not as relevant now musically, but I mean, she's still touring and whatnot. But her team, my producer, he worked in a big studio building with a whole bunch of different studios, and just through networking, he met like people on her team. So they had played the song for the person on her team. They really liked the song. So they hit my producer back and pretty much said, like, hey, well, she's working on her album, and y'all knew y'all want to get on. This is what we'll do. Y'all give us the song. We are going to register it. We're going to put that she wrote the song, right? Y'all, we're going to pay y'all out of pocket. So, like, so on pay, even though I wrote 100% of the song, they wanted it to seem like the artist wrote the song. And then they said they would, the manager and whoever was like, they said they would pay us out of pocket when the album comes out. And then they said, if you do this solid for us, we'll make sure when she does her next album, we'll have you guys on the album officially. Remember I told you I had started really diving into the music industry and researching, so I knew. I was like, so immediately I was like, fuck no, I'm not doing that. The producer I was working with, he was very like desperate. He just wanted to get on. And he's like, bro, let's just do it. And I said, bro, no. I said, if we go ahead and we sign this deal and this song blows up and becomes like a #1 record, we're not going to have anything. And I was just like, bro, I wrote 100% of that song, nigga. You made the beat. No, we can't do this thing. And at the time, this particular artist was a pretty big artist. And the manager was kind of like, you know, trying to finesse my producer. Like, man, you know, y'all gonna miss out on the opportunity. Like, man, y'all lives could change. And I was standing like firmly, nah, that's a bad deal. And it happens all the time. And what Tiffany read is saying is very common. Even not only with songwriters, it happened with producers too. So when you see, I will say this, and I'm confidently saying this, when you see a producer who has like hella beats he produced, like you just see he or she has 6 beats on this album, 7 beats on that album. Like they just have a tons and tons of, and they're like a popping producer. 9 times out of 10, that producer is not making all those beats. So pretty much what happens is that big producer, he or she is super busy. They can't sit down and make those beats all day. So what happens is they'll go to like a lesser known producers. They'll bring like a beat pack, and a beat pack is just like a CD or a drive of just a whole bunch of beats that like artists go through to listen to. So the producers who want to get on will play their beats for the bigger producer, and then the bigger producer will say, well, okay, and if the beats are really good, the producer might say like, okay, well, I'll give you $5,000 for all those beats, or $10,000 for all those beats, and you're gonna sign the beats over to me. You're gonna sign a contract, you know, not speaking about this. So now the bigger producer owns the beats, and he then takes those beats and gives it to the bigger artist. Cause I personally have met people who produce big hits, but they signed the beats over to somebody or sold the beat. And that's why I tell people in the industry, again, the industry prides themselves on desperation. A lot of these motherfuckers in the industry, they do not care about doing you dirty. So, and they play the game really well because, fun fact, I had actually signed a deal for a song. Like, I actually wrote a song for an artist that was about to get signed to a very big label. Like literally, the song I wrote was gonna be her lead single, and the management, the team, the people from the label was boosting me and the same producers heads up, like, you know, man, we gonna, yeah, this is gonna be, it's y'all lives gonna change. I did not want to sign the deal because I wanted an attorney to look over the paperwork. So I'm telling my producer, I'm like, bro, entertainment attorneys are very expensive. Attorneys in general, but entertainment attorneys are expensive in general. And I had found one attorney because I was reaching out to different entertainment attorneys. One entertainment attorney told me it was $10,000 for them to take me on as a client. It was just $10,000 off top for them to take me on as a client. Then you had all these other attorneys, and I just wanted somebody that could go through contracts with me. So I finally had spoken to somebody who was like, okay, for contract reviews, they'll charge like, it was like $300 or $400. A lot of money, especially when you're a broke singer, songwriter, creative. But I was like, look, I would rather spend this money making sure we're signing a good contract before we just sign away to some bullshit. So I had already told my producer, like, hey, bro, we can split the money. You give me 200, I'll put up 200. We'll get somebody to review the contract. That particular manager for the new artist that was getting signed was like literally telling my producer, like, hey man, like y'all gotta sign the paperwork if y'all want to be the first lead single. Like, we're trying, because we actually was in this, like they heard the demo. They actually brought us to her recording the song, and the artist, I don't know what she's doing now. I think her deal didn't go through, something like that. But the artists loved the song, and they was gonna say like, yeah, this is gonna be the summertime song, and they had this whole plan and whatnot. And we didn't get paid. They just was like, look, y'all are starting out, y'all not gonna get paid, but y'all gonna get paid when the song blow up and all that stuff. So I was telling my producer, like, bro, like, hey, bro, just give me the $200. Let's go get this attorney to look it over. My producer is like, bro, let's just sign it, man. They legit, man. Like, I like, bro, you don't know what we're signing, bro. We cannot just go ahead and sign this deal for this song. And, and I think the manager, he knew he could finesse my producer more than he could do it with me. So my producer is like sending me screenshots of the manager, pretty much pressing him like, hey, your boy is going to be the cause of you not getting on, and that's a shame because we really like the song. And he's like pressuring me like, bro, let's just sign the paperwork, bro. It's good. And it's just one song. And I was like, bro, like, please work with me, fam. Like, let's get somebody to look over this contract. And you know what it was very similar to? I don't know if you guys ever watched Making the Band, the season with the band, when the band was finally formed and then they had to sign the paperwork. All the other members of the band, except Sarah Stokes, the singer, just went ahead and signed the paperwork. They didn't even care what the contract said. And Sarah was kind of like, hey, can I get a lawyer to look this over? And then like Diddy and them, the whole Bad Boy, they were kind of telling them like, man, if your girl don't sign, boom, 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 boom. So the band was putting so much pressure on Sarah, like, man, you gonna ruin our dreams. We trying to get this money, blah, 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 blah. And then Sarah felt pressured in the corner and she just signed the deal. That's like kind of similar what happened to me. So as soon as I signed the deal, the manager, who was very nice in the beginning, very nice, used to respond to our texts, respond to our calls. We didn't hear from him for like a few weeks. So then we started hitting him. He wasn't answering our calls. And I'm going to tell y'all something, and I'm dead ass not lying. So he wasn't answering our calls. He was like, nah, we done signed the paperwork for the song. So we were trying to wonder like when the song is going to come out, XYZ. So he finally was like, yo, our calls and voicemails and emails aren't getting answered. So then my producer texted him like, bro, please let us know what's going on with our song. Like, boom, 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 boom. We haven't heard from you for a week. And the manager texted us back and said, you mean our song as far as him, right? He's like, that's my song now. Y'all signed that song over to me. And then he was like, I don't owe y'all an explanation for nothing. I'll let y'all know when I feel like it. And I was like, boom. And I literally went off on my producer like, I told you. And that happens all the time. So the music industry is very shady. And if you don't know any better, and I'm going to actually play what Tiffany read was saying, but those artists and managers and all that stuff, they will bully you out of ownership. They'll legit like finesse you, bully you, and as soon as you sign that contract, they don't give a fuck about you. Some of these people will literally lead you to fucking up your life, signing over all your ownership or whatever, because you got to understand, when you are hungry and desperate, it's two different things. I was always hungry to make it, but I was never desperate because I always had a job. I always was working. So I was able to walk away from certain situations. My producer, on the other hand, he was like, I'm a creative, so he never had a job, so he was always desperate for money. And that's when you're desperate and let's say somebody offers you $10,000 or $20,000. You think you became a millionaire, so you go ahead and just sign whatever deal it is, but you don't understand that deal you sign has that person owning all of your royalties, has that person owning all of your publishing, and that's when you see some artists, they've been in there, because I'll tell y'all this from first-hand knowledge, a lot of artists are broke. A lot, I'm not going to say majority, but a big percentage of artists who you guys think are like so rich or whatever, a lot of the artists are broke. They're not making money off their music. They have to stay on the road and tour because all their money is going to their label and whoever they sign, or their production companies, because they sign fucked up contracts. But anyway, let me play what Tiffany Red was saying. And this part, she was mainly talking about Beyonce and some of her practices with songwriting and her most recent album from Renaissance.
So, I can pull up my records.
Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe.
I talked to somebody yesterday. Somebody's a manager of somebody who is a writer and producer on Renaissance. Okay? The record is one of y'all faves. The song was written 6 years before it got to Beyonce. She got 25% of the song. I've talked to another writer who wrote and sang on one of your favorite songs. Credit not right, all kind of shit up. His business still isn't handled. Beyonce was on tour last year with that record. With that person's vocals, all that. I'm not crazy. And here's the thing. The reason why people who work for Beyonce don't talk is because they're all on NDAs. Because that's also how she works. She silences people so that nobody can speak. I'm not a writer that's written for Beyonce. I haven't at Beyonce because I'm not willing to give her any publishing. Not because I haven't had the opportunity. I've had the opportunity to work with everybody. And I've turned down a lot of stuff because I'm not willing to play these games. There's a massive power dynamic happening. Please don't act like it's easy to negotiate with Beyonce and her team, because it is not. If that was the case, there would not be so many people coming to me like, Tiff, this is how much was taken. Shit is not negotiable. It's not. These are the terms, which means, okay, cool, then we work for you, Beyonce. So that means you're an employer. But either way, to imply that the artists do not have to be responsible for the business practices that they exercise with songwriters, to insinuate that the only way you are treated fairly is if you are managed by one of the gatekeepers is bullshit. It's bullshit. You shouldn't have to be in company with a gatekeeper to be treated fairly. You should not have to have a gatekeeper on your team to make a livable wage off of music that is making people billionaires. Them Grammys don't pay the bills. Those plaques do not pay the bills. There are people with Grammys and plaques who can't pay their rent. I know people who are super accredited, broke. It means nothing. Trust me, I know.
Okay, so I don't know too well. The most information I know about Beyonce, I used to, when I was in the music industry, I definitely was cool with somebody who worked with Beyonce before in the studio. It was a producer I was cool with. Haven't spoken to homie in years. This was like back in Twitter days, and yeah, it's been years. Matter of fact, I need to look him up on IG to see, because it's been years. But and what album he worked on? I can't recall which Beyonce album it was, but I think it was 4. It was either 4 or the self-titled one. It was one of those ones. I know it wasn't as late as Lemonade, and I know it wasn't like early Beyonce. It was like middle Beyonce. But what Tiffany is saying is essentially, she's like, look, if I wrote a song completely by myself and you didn't have anything to do with the song, you should not get a percentage, right? Because like I told you, a lot of these artists, especially singers, a lot of singers don't write. So you have sometimes you just have singers who just have beautiful voices and people just put them in the studio, tell them to sing, they give them the song and this and that. So when you're not a writer and you're not getting publishing, you really don't make a lot of money off your music unless you are like one of the big dogs in the industry. So what a lot of artists start doing is they start taking publishing. Like, okay, well, you wrote the song. In order for your song to go on my album, I need 10%, 20%. And the bigger the artist you are, like Tiffany said, like a Beyonce could say like, hey, I want 25%. Here's where I disagree with Tiffany. And this is what some music industry big dog told me. Because I had the same mentality as Tiffany Red when I was pursuing it, right? I would be like, I would never give a percentage. If I wrote the song 100 by myself, I want all my money, whoop, whoop, whoop. And somebody big in the industry had told me, it's better to have 50 or 75% of something over 100% of nothing. Let me say that again. It's better to have 50 or 75% of something rather than having 100% or nothing. I would much rather have my song on an album making some kind of money than having a song that's on my computer not doing anything. So with me, if an artist as big as Beyonce is like, hey, we like your song, we're going to put it on the album, you're going to get publishing or whatnot, I'm going to give it to Beyonce. You feel what I'm saying? Because just Beyonce alone, brand equity, association, opportunities, you're in another caliber. So I was kind of surprised that somebody as, esteemed that Tiffany would not understand the part of the game. And that's just business 101. Everybody is trying to get a piece of the pie. Now, when they're doing people dirty, like trying to take whole publishing, and you have some people trying to get their managers and their team on parts of the publishing, that's where the issue lies. Because you got to understand, with a song, it's like a pie. And then the more people you got to cut the pie in, that's where the pie dwindles. So you want the most percentage of the pie as possible. That's why with songwriters, an album is equity. So songwriters are like pirates. If you get to work with an artist, you want as much songs on the album because that's more, you're eating up more of the pie. A lot of artists can't afford a big dog like, let's say, a Neo. Neo might charge like $100,000 per song, and then an artist might only have a $500,000 budget. So they might only be able to pay for one Neo and one Neo track, but then they might have space to get a whole bunch of like up and coming writers to be on the song. So songwriters are just fighting for placement. And with streaming, unfortunately, a lot of the money isn't the same. But what are y'all thoughts on what Tiffany Red has said? Like I said, I agree that songwriters should be treated better, but I feel like sometimes just the equity in association with the bigger artists works itself out. But anyway, like, comment, subscribe, and share, and I'll talk to you soon.